Dear students, in this tutorial we're going to see how to be working with paper structures. I hope you start collecting some different paper structures so that you can use it on your illustration. And we have, of course, a few different ways to be using it and a few different aspects that we have to calculate and analyze before we start working with paper texture. And I'm going to be showing you a few of them in this tutorial. And symmetry is something that I really like, and sometimes the symmetry is not strong enough for us to be using as, let me put it like this, an infinite type of paper. It's a quite symmetrical structure, but still not symmetrical enough for me to be scaling it afterwards in the paper structure window. So if you start working this kind of material, the first thing you have to look is there anything on the picture that is going to be like a strange body on it that you don't really want to have. And in this case we have my foot here on the right side. So I would like to crop this image. I'll just take my foot away from it. We can see as well that we have a beautiful and very strong symmetry, but the lines are not really connected to each other, and we have sometimes some distortions here and here on the right side from this structure. So at the moment it binds to this side, it's going to be a very, very strong break. I'm just going to do this first paper structure out of this image, and then you're going to understand what I'm talking about. If I go to Window and I have on the medium, the first possibility here is to open the paper palette, or if you would like, the shortcut is Propeller 9. And opening the paper palette, I can, by having my paper structure on the working space, select it all and then go to this tiny little icon and say, in German, Struktur aufnehmen. So, sandy waves. I'm going to develop then a new paper structure, and at the moment I do this sandy waves appears here on my library. So I'll open a new file by pressing Command N. And for now I'm not checking the size of the file and the size of my paper structure. I'm just getting the sandy waves that I just developed, and I'm grabbing my drawing tool, Square Heart Pastel. I'm increasing the size of my brush, and for now I have it quite large in here, so my photo is probably larger than the paper that I selected. So I could use this paper like this. I don't have any cuts in here, but at the moment I decrease the scale of my paper. I'll just grab another color and I start painting. We can see here already quite strongly. It's a very strong cut here in the middle of the paper. I'll just grab another color and I'm going to be painting not so strongly. But you can see here a very strong line coming through. So it's not really looking so nice. And if you're working with the scale of the paper, it could help not having this and still having this beautiful kind of waves, but you cannot have it as a very fine type of texture. So one thing that I would recommend you guys, let me check, I'll have to reduce this image, would be if you would like to be working with exactly this scale of paper with this texture that we can see here, I would just go to Arbeitsfläche or working space and I would check the size of this image. So for now we have a quite large size of file, and if I just keep the resolution for printing, we can see here the size of the image as well. So I'm just going to confirm this. So by a 26 by 20 centimeters file, at least you're going to have a good texture that is not going to be giving you these cuts. So let us check another possibility to be working with paper structure. So I'm just closing this one, and I'm going a little bit further as well because I did not transform my image into a black and white image before. So I'm just going to grab another sandy structure. So it looks a little bit like it rained on the sand, and we can see it's very subtle, but we can see here this part of the photo is much darker than this one. And I have been doing some tests, and no matter the size of the square that I would select in this picture, I would still have some differences. So the square selected was always going to appear. I'm going to try this with you guys so you understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to Effects, Color Correction. I would like to transform this into a black and white image so that I have a better idea of the contrast of this image. I'll just turn saturation to the lowest value possible so that I have no color information in here. And I'm going to select from any part from this photography, knowing that I'm working always with a workspace here, and I'm creating a new paper structure. So rainy sand. I'm going to the file I just created before. I'm picking up rainy sand. I'm getting my brush, and now we can see at the moment I start painting, I have here a line coming through my illustration. So in this case it's not even that strong for now. If I reduce the scale of it, I'll get a darker color. We can see the squares coming through, which is not really very beautiful. Sometimes you can try to cover it with a little bit more color, but usually it does not really work so fine. So if you're working with a paper structure that is not 100% symmetrical, I would really recommend you guys to see the size of this image and try to be working with exact the same size from the picture you're transforming as a structure. So one other possibility, and it's still going to appear a certain type of repetition, but this repetition could be even quite interesting, would be to be choosing a tiny little part of your structure. Like you can see, this is a very, very small square, and I'm creating now a new paper structure. Tiny. Selecting it all, deleting it. So I'm just and selecting the paper structure called Tiny. I can now be working with it. So you can see the little dots appearing here. It can be interesting if you're not really seeing the square so strongly, and depending which cut you do, this one was not really very happy. But let me see, Dune, I did, I think this one. You can still see the line, but sometimes it still looks quite interesting as a paper structure. Okay, I'm just reducing this even more. And then it looks almost like a broderie. So sometimes it still works even though it's not 100% symmetrical, but you can still see the repetition in there. But in this case, the repetition breaks itself since it's such a small structure.